So Godot 4.3 just came out, and it has a ton of new changes and stuff. And I just want to give you guys a quick tour of everything that's going on in Godot 4.3. You can download it here from their releases page. And the first thing you'll notice when you come here is that their releases page has really become very fancy. It used to just be a big list, but look at it now. They've got all these highlights with these cool screenshots and typography and neat fonts and examples and stuff. It's super cool. This is looking, I mean, like very professional. I love it. So right off the bat, a couple of cool new things. Audio resources. This is something I'd missed. I've been using the release candidate for a while, but they've added some new audio stream players. So one of them is called Audio Stream Interactive, one's Audio Stream Playlist, and one's Audio Stream Synchronized. So what you can do with these is like synchronize music tracks and add a bunch of music to a playlist. And then you can have the tracks and the music change depending on gameplay. And it's all kind of built into these nodes. Very cool. The physics interpolation, they've got a neat example here of it. This is like kind of how it used to look. If you had like a high refresh rate screen, you would see like things would be a little not so smooth, but now they're interpolating between the physics frames. So you can have like still like 60 steps or 30 steps of physics, but it'll actually interpolate the in-between frames if you have a high refresh monitor. So, or if you're doing more visual frames, like VSync is turned off or something. So if you're doing like 200 frames a second visually, but your physics is only like 60, it smooths it out and you get this nicer looking 2D thing. I don't think this works in 3D yet. Yeah, there's a PR for it, so it's coming to 3D soon, but right now it works great in 2D. Decluttering shader nodes. What is this one? Very cool. Visual Shader Editor has been revamped from the ground up to be more visually appealing and to enhance the readability of large, complex shader graphs. I don't personally use the Visual Shader tool, but I know lots of people do. And this looks like a great change. I mean, anything that makes the tools nicer to use, I think is great. I mean, look at that. That's really cool. Just looking at this video kind of makes me want to use it, but I know I'm going to feel like my hands are tied or something if I'm using it because I just like typing the code. It's just a little faster for me. A lot of tile map improvements for 2D. You can have a new tile map layer node. That's cool. If you want to add layers to your tile map, you had to add them in the inspector. We simplified this by creating a new tile map layer node to replace the old approach. It's more intuitive. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it seems nice. Again, more convenience functions. This is like a quality of life improvement for doing 2D stuff. The single-threaded web exports is kind of a big one. There was a problem where Godot 4 like did a bunch of threading stuff, but then when you exported your project to the browser, you would get all these sound problems. There was just a lot of issues, and a lot of that was down to like multi-threading because JavaScript is not that way. It's single-threaded. So they had to like basically, if you're doing a web export, to do single-threaded, and so now the web exports should actually work better. Yeah, by doing so, we achieve better browser compatibility, making it easier and faster to upload your games to the web. So that means 4.3 is probably going to be even better for doing like game jams and stuff, right? Like the next Ludum Dare, I might use Godot 4.3. We'll see. God, is there one coming up? Is it this month? I don't know. Multi-threading improvement, edge cases, less deadlocks, less crashing, more reliable. That sounds great. Love it. I want one of these. How do I get a Godot tennis ball? Somebody let me know how I get one of those. I want to get one. I don't use bones. I don't use bones, so I don't know what this does. But I guess you can move bones around a little easier now in your animations, which is cool. and you can retarget animations to different things. That seems great. Oh, this one's a big one. Look at, you can actually highlight, select, copy, cut, paste, duplicate keyframes now in your animation player. Couldn't do that before. Now you can. Fantastic. Finally. That's amazing. I love it. Navigation. This one was kind of me a little bit. So for working on this game, I actually used to use nav meshes, and somebody on the dev team was like watching one of my streams, and they're like, "This is terrible. The things he's having to go through to get the collisions and navigation avoidance to work is just awful." And so they actually added some new properties to make it so that you can bake in and carve the navigation mesh with other obstacles. Like obstacles before didn't actually carve the navigation mesh, but now they do, or they can optionally. There's like a checkbox, and it works great. I've actually used this, and you can put some navigation obstacles, bake the nav mesh. It puts a bunch of holes in it where the obstacles are, and the vehicles navigate around the holes perfectly. So it's awesome. Very, very cool. This one seems like a big deal. Native FBX Importer. So what they've done is they've added a internal FBX importer. So you don't need an add-on. You don't need any external tools or converters. You can just drag and drop FBX files into your project now, and they just work, just like you can do with like blend files. Right? That seems awesome. I definitely want to try this. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm gonna, because there's some, for the game I'm making now, there's some free assets I want to try out, and they come with FBX and GLTF and everything, but I'm gonna try the FBX ones, make sure it works. You know, seems like very cool. I know a lot of assets get distributed that way, and they have the animations all in them and everything, so should be cool. File system moved to the bottom of the screen. I am doing that right now. It's nice. It's nice. It kind of gets it out of the way. Like the default position was underneath the scene tree. And so now you can have a full vertical scene tree, and then your file browser can kind of just show and hide itself as needed. Layout and UX improvements. The project manager does feel a little better. I'm not sure what it is. I didn't actually notice any changes, but I noticed when I launched it that it just feels a little nicer in some way. They obviously changed something. They just tightened it up a little bit. New Parallax 2D node. I know a lot of folks working on 2D games are very excited about this one. Basically, they made the Parallax 2D node work the way I think it should work. Before, it would do kind of odd things depending on how you stack the layers, and it was a little unintuitive. And so hopefully they've fixed all that issue with the new Parallax 2D node. Fixing pixel snapping and alignment. You see how it's like there's a lot of jitter over here? They've kind of just smoothed it out a little bit, but it's still snapping. Very cool. It makes me want to work on a 2D game again. There's a new blend mode for 3D materials, pre-multiplied alpha. That's cool. So you can see here, it's pretty subtle, but you can see like the black smoke here. Looks a little, it's more noticeable here than it is here. Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that they're adding new blending modes and stuff to 3D. And you can add custom rendering code. There's a compositor effects API now. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I'm going to have to dig into that. I don't know exactly what that does, but it seems like it's a neat way to do like post-processing without, like it lets you hook into the Godot's like post-processing pipeline and do extra stuff that you want to do. That's very cool. Don't know what that does. Finally, baking light maps in the compatibility renderer. I guess if you're doing mobile, this is important to you. I don't make mobile games. Depth-based fog is cool. Depth-based fog, you can decide where the fog begins and when it transitions to fully opaque. That's pretty neat. I'll definitely be using that when I make my next horror game. And then bunch of technical stuff. Basically just making everything go faster. Without making any changes, you should expect to see a frame rate improvement of 5 to 15% and more if you heavily use GPU particles. Awesome. And the compatibility rendering backend got a bunch of features that I guess were removed when we went to 4, and so now they're coming back. Or maybe these features weren't even in the old renderer, and now they are. So this is cool. If you again, I think this is for doing like mobile games and stuff like that. So this is useful. Wayland support, nobody cares. New rendering driver for DirectX 3D 12. Nice. For deploying to Windows, that should be good. 2D content renders less blurry in XR, so VR and AR stuff, that's great. Hand, body, and face tracking standardization. I'm not into VR or AR development. XR, we'll call it XR. It makes me nauseous when I put on a headset, so I don't see myself ever being an XR developer. But it looks cool. And this is going to obviously be very useful. Performance, stability enhancements, of course, are always welcome. Meta XR Simulator. The Meta XR Simulator is a free tool to test your XR application in a simulated Quest headset. Pretty neat. So you don't even have to have the hardware now to test your XR games. You probably, before you release an XR game for a specific headset, you want to test it on actual hardware. But this can get you going while it's in the mail or whatever. That's cool. Maybe if you just want to experiment with it, you can just use the simulator for a little while. Enhanced audio quality on the web. Again, this is the single threading thing. And the splash screen feature now works on the web. And the web progress bar has been fixed. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. It's been reworked. They didn't say improved. They just said reworked. The old one was kind of, janky. It didn't look real good. Hopefully it looks better and it's more accurate. Bunch of C# stuff. I don't use C# either, but I'm assuming some of this stuff is useful. They found the bug that forced you to restart sometimes. That's good. Type hierarchies can now include generics. That's good. The editor does not allow you to export your project now if you have missing files. That's good. Oh, this is neat. Some improvements in GD script. So I do use a lot of GD script. You can now write is not instead of not my node is. Is not. That's great. That's just a little bit of sugar, and I love it. And you can now make your exports smaller by converting the code to binary. That's kind of neat. That's kind of neat. So it's not encrypted, but it is turned into binary, so it's obfuscated, and it should be much smaller. Compressed, right? Not encrypted, just compressed. Built-in functions can now be callable. That's cool. Export storage allows you to store hidden values in a scene. Okay, that's cool. So you can store like information for your add-ons, your plugins, but not not let users accidentally change them because it's not really an export, but it is saved. It's just not accidentally editable. And export custom to export a value suited to your needs. You can define pre and suffixes, custom hint strings, usage flags, bunch of stuff. I mean, I don't know what this would be useful for. I guess if you're doing a lot of plugins and stuff, people have requested this. I don't make a lot of plugins. But it does seem like I'm already thinking like, because I use like exports right now for resources for saving config files and stuff. And I'm wondering how I could use this. Like if there's some value I needed to save that I couldn't save normally, maybe this would help. GDScript auto completion fixes. That's always good. Circular dependencies. They fix some known issues with that. That's great. If you've never gotten a circular dependency error, trust me, you don't want to know about it. Just be glad it's never happened to you. And then native plugins. I don't do these either, but it looks like they've improved a bunch of stuff for making native plugins, which is awesome. Oh, you can comment on the online docs now. Interesting. Intended for general corrections and not individual tech support. For problems with your project, visit the official forum instead. That's kind of cool. I wonder if people will start submitting like examples. That could be useful. And the in-editor documentation has been updated. The editor documentation now has syntax highlighting. That's good. They reproduced the copy button from the online version, so now you can copy the contents of a code block with one click. That's cool. Very cool. And you can copy a direct link to whatever method you're currently looking at by clicking the icon next to its name. Awesome. Yeah, that's neat. And then, as usual, huge team of contributors and volunteers and release specialists and everything. So it's a big update. It feels really good. And I've been using it all morning, and it works great. This is my project. It does feel to me a little snappier than the release candidates, but probably that's because the release candidates were like in debug mode or something, and this is like in release mode. So it feels nice to be on a stable release. One thing that's neat about that I've noticed with this release is they seem to have gone really out of their way to make things feel more professional, you know? Like, I don't think anybody could look at this now and think that it's some kind of like toy, you know? I don't think you could look at this and think that for a long time, but especially now, it really feels like a highly polished piece of software. And it's great to work with. You should go download it right now.